Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus reports. What's today, Benny? September
Today is
10th,
September 10th.
2025. It's a Wednesday, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
What's going on out there, everybody? This is Ben Dickerson. I am your co-host. We're coming into week two. We talked about week one last week. The season is upon us. Had some great games this past weekend, which we're going to talk about later, but I'm going to throw it right back to you, Barry, to talk about the rankings.
Well, first of all, Ben, I want to, again, like we said last week, why do we do it? For the Super Bowl. That's why. For the Super Bowl. So, Super Bowl LX, I guess I should just move out the way somehow. You see that it's there. But long story short, I want to keep that in focus all through the year because as teams win and lose, it's truly affecting their ability to get there. And they should all have that as the ultimate goal. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out. Oh, let me remind everybody, please, to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you will be notified when we come out with our shows, Ben and Barry on Football. Also at www.benandbarryonfootball.com. Okay, Benny, we're going to start out with the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. And again, the Net Point Power Rankings, we developed, it's been put 6, 7 years now that we've been tracking these stats. And really, it's about understanding that we rank teams, NFL teams, by their average net points, their average win margin. The strength of the rankings is purely numerical, no opinion, no conjecture. This is a numbering system that has served us pretty well. I mean, we did pretty good in terms of being able to predict, matchups in the following year. But let's start out with the headings. So we have the rank, we have the team, we have ANP, that stands for average net points. We have APF, that's average points for. So that's your scoring, okay? We have APA, that's average points against. That's your defense. And everything you'll notice is about points. Then you get over here in this last column that says ATOD, which is average turnover differential. But we have a methodology where we can turn those turnovers into points. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But long story short, as you can see, in first place, Benny, and I thought about you all last week when you talked about Daniel Jones. And here they come out in first place in the ranking. I don't ever remember Indianapolis being first place in the rankings at all, but plus 25. So in that one game that they played, they won by 25 points. So their net margin win is 25. You'll see the top five there: Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Washington, Green Bay, and Denver in your top five. Even Philly, the Super Bowl champion, is in 10 because they only won by 4 points. Now, next to that, you have your scorers. Now, look, let me tell you something. 1 and 2 battled it out. We'll talk a little bit about that. But 41 points and 40 points in a game. So you only have one game, so the average is really just one. But it's amazing. Then you get this tremendous production by one Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh, and of course you got your Colts and your Jets putting up 32 points. And on defense, APA, Washington, stay with me, Benny. The Commanders only allow 6 points. The Colts only gave up 8, the Rams 9, Jacksonville 10, and Denver 12. And then when you get over the turnover differential, wow, Indianapolis in first place with +3. Now, again, your average net points and your average turnover differential can go positive or negative, okay? Got anything you want to mention about any of these teams in the top half of the rankings?
No, not really. We're one game in, and couple teams had some pretty good matchups and took advantage of them. I don't know that everybody in the top five of each of these categories is going to remain there very long, except for Buffalo and Baltimore will probably stay near the top of the points for category, I'm sure. I have a feeling the Rams are going to be pretty tough in points against. I'm a little surprised at Cincinnati in turnover differential, but as the weeks go by, the cream always rises to the top.
And Benny, let me also mention that we consider the first 4 games as the second preseason. So a lot of these teams are still sort of figuring things out, and your running quarterbacks are really benefiting to some degree, guys who can run because they're, when the play's not there or when they don't see it, even if it's there, they have that athletic capability to take off. And in these first 4 games, I kind of expect that a little bit more, but it should lessen as they begin to really get used to the offense and be able to make those quick throws and all of that kind of stuff. Let's move now to the second half here. So we have Baltimore at -1. That was a head bang ball, man. That thing was crazy. That thing was crazy. In 32nd place, Benny, we have the Miami Dolphins, who are making news by how bad they are, at -25 points. Your New York Football Jets, Benny, only put up 6. I expected a little bit more from them. So they took that last place. Baltimore. Now, how you like this? Those 2 top teams, and it's just weird how stats work. This is just the first week, so it'll change. We know it's going to change. But in 31st and 32nd place, we have Buffalo and Baltimore.
They scored the most and they gave up the most.
Yeah, for sure, But that's going to change big time over the season. And then your turnover differential, again, Miami, this is how you wind up with -25 points is you have -3 in the average turnover differential. And again, the average turnover differential, we're taking the turnovers that were given away and the turnovers that were taken. Okay. So, you positive. I know, for example, when I'm playing Madden, if I can keep it to 2 turnovers, I can still win the game on average. But anything beyond that, I'm in trouble. So Cleveland, Denver, Carolina, Miami, Houston, the Jets, Detroit, Dallas, and Baltimore all in that negative situation there. So anything you want to say about the bottom half?
Yes, sir.
Then let us, Benny, talk just for a second about the bias plus reports. We just looked at the Sterling net point power rankings. We're ranking teams by net points. Okay. And again, my example is if my team is scoring at an average of plus 25 points, let's say, and I'm going to play a team who's scoring at an average of plus 5 points. That's a differential of 20 points. And that 20-point differential will favor the team with the larger win margin. That's all that we're saying. Okay. It's not true all the time. As a matter of fact, I don't have it this week because last week wasn't really based on points. Last week we did it based on Madden ratings just for fun because there were no points. But we have what's called the bias plus buster of the week, which will be the team that wins, that was expected to lose, yet they won and won by the largest margin. And so we actually celebrate those teams. So, it is what it is. So in this particular situation, let's get ready to take a look at the bias plus reports. All right, Benny, the bias plus report 2025 NFL Week 2. Why did we do it? Well, the Super Bowl. Commanders at Packers. Bias plus score of 9, Benny, favors the Commanders. And we got a chance to see the Packers' new addition at defensive end just run down quarterbacks like he was chasing them in the wild.
Yeah, that was a great analogy. I forget who made it, but he said, look like one of those nature videos with a lion chasing down an antelope and diving and catching it. That was great.
The only problem I had was that is that who was that? Goff
Yeah.
comparing his ability to run to an antelope was just kind of
Yeah, antelope. I should have said probably a water buffalo.
something like
that
that.
that probably would have been better,
That
but
might have been better, man. That might have been better. But the Commanders had a better outcome than the Packers, although the Packers played a pretty good game. So what do you got on this?
well, sir, let's see what we got here. The Commanders. First of all, last week the Commanders hosted New York Giants, my New York Giants, and decidedly trounced them 21-6. Jaden Daniels didn't have to do much special. He did gain 68 yards on the ground on 11 carries. They also got 82 yards and a touchdown from rookie running back Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. You're going to be hearing his name a lot week after week. And by the way, he doesn't like to go by the name Ja'Cory. He likes to go by the name Bill. I have no idea why. Defensively, the Commanders shut down the Giants' run game, stopped them twice deep in the red zone, forcing field goals and stopping them from getting touchdowns, of course. They also had 7 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. Now, they're going to have to go to Green Bay to play the Packers. And let's talk about the Packers. First of all, here's 2 fun facts about the Packers. One, I was completely unaware of, and the other one I completely forgot about from last year. First off, last Sunday's game against the Lions was the first time since 2018 that the Packers opened the season at home. That's kind of crazy, ain't it? Since 2018, they haven't had a home opener. The second fun fact is they were 1-5 in divisional play last season. That's right. The NFC North, they were 1-5 against the Vikings, the Bears, and the Lions. So they got a long way to go right there in the division with the teams that they play twice every season. But they got off to a great start. This is what they did on Sunday. They beat the NFC North champion Detroit Lions 27-13. Jordan Love threw touchdown passes to Tucker Kraft and Jaden Reed, while Josh Jacobs gained 66 yards on the ground and added a rushing touchdown. Defensively, they kept the Lions offense off the end zone, or rather out of the end zone, until a minute left in the game. Can't win like that, Lions. Going to have to do better. I think the Packers at home are going to handle the Commanders with not too much trouble. Go Pack, go. Going against the bias.
So you're going with the Packers going against the bias there. Okay. All right. I'm gonna leave it at that. Let's move on. Bills at Jets. Bias plus score of 11 favors. Guess who, Benny?
I would guess it would be the Bills.
The Bills. Buffalo. What a game that was, man. What a game that was.
Yeah, it was. We're going to talk about it a little bit right now.
Even not castigated, but he got on his own fans for leaving early.
Yeah, and I tell you what, that Bills Mafia, they're quite a bunch. Just the fact that he made that statement, I bet you they're going to make it an unwritten rule from now on that thou shalt not leave a Buffalo Bills game, a home game, until it's over. That's how they are. They're going to talk about it on the radio up there. They're going to get on each other. If they see somebody getting up, they're going to be like, hey, yo, where you going? Sit back down. But anyway, that's how Bills Mafia is. So let's talk about the Jets first. After going 4-2 with the Steelers last season and then having his starting job taken away from him, Justin Fields seemed to have found a home with the Jets in New York. He played well against his old team, the Steelers, and he had a couple of opportunities to lead the Jets to victory. He actually really played well. I mean, I was very impressed with him, especially with the way that he threw the ball. He ran really well too, but I expected that. But he threw some dimes, man. He actually looked really good out there. He was 16-22. He threw a touchdown pass. He ran for 2 more touchdowns, and he had 0 turnovers. Unfortunately, the potential game-winning drive ended with his first down pass to Garrett Wilson falling incomplete when Wilson got splattered by Jalen Ramsey, one of the biggest hits of the weekend. That's how that went down. Now, Sunday Night Football featured a big-time matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. It was actually a rematch of Buffalo's 27-25 playoff win over Baltimore in last season's AFC divisional round. It was also a scorigami. Now, do you know what a scorigami is? He's not there.
What do you mean, do I know what a scorigami is?
You know what a scorigami is?
What is it?
I didn't think you were listening. You don't know what a scorigami is?
No. What's a
Okay. A scorigami is a score in a game that never happened before in NFL history.
Okay.
So that particular final score has never been a final score in any other NFL game in the history of the league. That's a scorigami. Doesn't happen very often. Happens very seldom, in fact. I think there was one last year. I can't remember what game it was, but that's a scorigami. Now,
You probably exclude most teams just for the fact you hit 40 points.
yeah, but there's been lower scoring ones too.
Okay. Okay.
You know it's possible to win a game 6-1.
Uh,
Yeah, it is possibility. But anyway, the
okay.
Bills had trouble finding the end zone in the first half, and they had to settle for field goals, while their defense was getting brutalized by Derrick Henry, and boy, were they ever. They found themselves down 40-25 at the 11:32 mark of the fourth quarter. After punting on their next possession, they then drove for a touchdown, recovered a Derrick Henry fumble, drove for another touchdown, and then finished off the win with a 32-yard Matt Prater field goal. Great comeback. A lot of fans had to listen to it on the radio in the parking lot because they left too early, but that's how that one went down. Now, I'm loving Justin Fields. Like I said, he looked really good. I'm rooting for the guy. Looks like he's found a home with the New York Jets. But they got to host Buffalo, and it's a short trip for the Bills. I'm going to go with the bias and take the Bills in this one.
Makes sense. Makes sense. You know, I kind of felt for Derrick Henry after that fumble. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like, oh man, yeah, he was having such a great game.
He was having a great game.
And then
They took him out of the flow.
say that again. What are you saying?
They took him out of the flow of the game. They stopped giving him the ball.
Oh, after the fumble?
No, they stopped feeding him before the fumble. Then he had a run, 2 runs, and then he fumbled, and then he had one more run after that. That's with half the quarter, more than half the quarter still remaining, and them being in the lead.
There was a question about a fourth down and whether or not the Ravens should have punted or gone for it. Now, at one point, from what I saw, they said that before the third down, after the third down, Jackson got up and looked a little gimpy, like something was bothering him. And the
He
coach
said he cramped.
influenced his decision not to go for it. But everyone seems to be basically saying, look, Ravens, you don't have the defense that you used to have. Your strength is now your offense.
Right.
And so you should have gone with that. What do you think about that?
And the strength of your offense is Derrick Henry. And he's rolling. And you're on the road, hostile environment, and you have the lead. Doesn't sound like a conservative moment to me. I'm trying to make sure I hammer these cats, but they didn't do it. Might have been part of their demise.
Could have been, could have been. And apparently the Ravens have a pretty bad record of giving up double digit.
Yeah, the coach was talking about that in the post game interview. So they're aware of it. Doesn't make it any better.
One of the things that I questioned was Josh Allen was throwing that ball absolutely wonderful in that comeback. I mean, he's hitting people, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, does that style of offense fit him well, or were they just playing prevent? And as you know, as you always say, really doesn't prevent anything.
Prevent you from winning.
That's what it prevents you from doing. But he was, I mean, he was putting the ball in some places, man. He was really, you know, as only to some degree he can. So I just wondered if that style of play actually suited him, you know?
I would say yes. I would. That's why he's MVP. Okay.
You know what it reminded me of? I used to say about McNabb that McNabb, they got McNabb and tried to fit him into a West Coast offense with the short, precise passes, but that wasn't his strength. So when T.O. came and it opened up the field, he was much more effective, I felt, because for him, a 15-yard pass was easier than a 5-yard pass.
Right.
So could be, could be. But in any event, you're going to go with the Bills, and that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Jets, Jets, Jets. The only team I had any family that played for. Bears at Lions. Bias plus score of 15. Benny favors the Bears.
What? The Bears have the bias?
The Bears have the
Oh my, I gotta jot
bias.
this down. My goodness gracious.
Yeah, man.
Okay, well, Detroit's gonna be at home. Let me ask a question here to start this one off. Is there something wrong with the Lions offense, or was the Packers defense that good? I'm
Really.
not going to answer that right now. I have an answer, but I'm not going to answer it right now. Detroit didn't find the end zone against the Packers until 55 seconds left in regulation. For an offense that was rolling over people, they led the league in scoring last year. I'm pretty sure if they weren't first, they were second. Oh, unbelievable. Anyway, besides his one touchdown pass, Jared Goff threw one interception, got sacked 4 times, and the last year's strongest 1-2 punch at running back, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, were strapped while Green Bay recorded 9 tackles for loss. That should answer the question I asked earlier. Yeah, Green Bay's defense is that good. I do expect the Lions to bounce back from that terrible loss. Bears, any other NFC North matchup, they hosted the Vikings on Monday night. Caleb Williams completed a touchdown pass and ran for first rushing touchdown of his career as the Bears moved out to a 17-6 lead by the end of the third quarter. Unfortunately for Chicago, the Vikings offense came to life in the fourth quarter and ran off 21 unanswered points to take a 10-point lead before the Bears were able to respond with 2 minutes left. Even though they led the Vikings in time of possession and first downs and total yards, they committed 12 penalties, and their last-ditch effort to win the game ended with a fumble. Penalties, turnovers, baby. I don't care how well you play. Not going to happen for you. Going with the Lions, going against the bias.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can understand that. All right, let's move on. Browns at Ravens. Bias plus score of 4 favors the Ravens. But you got
That's not much of a bias, is it?
ah,
Yeah, well, like you said, it's early. So
it's early.
some of these biases may not seem to make sense right now, but as we go on, they'll make clear sense. Anyway, the Cleveland Browns were at home again last week against division rival Cincinnati. They dominated the time of possession. Here we go again. Dominated time of possession. They dominated first downs, total plays, and total yards. And Joe Flacco had some pretty decent numbers. But he threw 2 interceptions, and besides a 3-sack-in-a-row sequence, 2 by Myles Garrett, by the way, the defense actually never really showed up. They were very mediocre. The Ravens, on the other hand, traveled to Buffalo in a game that we just talked about on Sunday Night Football. They ran out to a 40-25 lead with 11 plus minutes left in the fourth quarter, and then they slowly and methodically snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. Now, I will say this. After his fourth quarter touchdown, Derrick Henry only touched the ball another 4 times. One of those times ended in a fumble. And we talked about Derrick Henry and the Ravens and how big he is to them winning last season, probably the season before that too. And I said, Derrick Henry should never finish a game with less than 25 touches. Not necessarily 25 carries, but 25 touches. No doubt about it. He had 18 in that game, counting those last 4 and 1 being a fumble. However, I will go with the bias, and I will go with the Ravens at home against the Browns.
Yeah, there you go. We don't have to talk about that too much. I'm with you. How about Bengals at Jaguars? Bias plus score of 4. Benny, I got favors the Ravens here. Genie Christmas.
So, Jags got to travel to Cincinnati. However, last week, the Jags and a new head coach, Liam Cohen, of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator the year before, opened the season at home with a convincing win against the Panthers in Carolina. The offensive line kept Trevor Lawrence upright and helped Travis Etienne reestablish himself as the team's number one running back. So much so that Tank Bigsby, who was vying for that spot, ended up getting traded to the Eagles this week. But we'll talk about that later. The defensive front seven shut down the Panthers' ground game and harassed Bryce Young in the 2 interceptions. He looked really bad, man. I know you didn't have much faith in him, and I was trying to have some faith in him because I thought he closed the season last season pretty strong in the last few games. But he looked just like when he first came out as a rookie. He was in trouble. Now the Bengals rolled into Cleveland, pulled out a 1-point win, and strange as this may sound, they were led by their defense, their much maligned defense. Joe Burrow and the high-powered offense struggled against the Browns' mediocre defense and had to lean on their own defense to secure the win. DJ Turner and Jordan Battle both came up with second-half interceptions that deflected off of Browns receiver hands. That was tough. They ended critical drives. They stifled Cleveland's comeback attempts. New Browns kicker Andre Schmidt, I believe that's how his name is pronounced, also missed 2 second-half field goal attempts. So there's no wonder that they lost. Now, this is an interesting game. Jaguars have the bias. I know it's early in the season. Might not necessarily be that if, in fact, this game was later on. However, that Jaguar offense looked pretty good, and the defense wasn't shabby. Bengals defense was surprisingly good, offense surprisingly bad. This is a tough one to call, bad. Tough one to call. Bengals are home. I think they can fix whatever ails them. So I'm going to go with the Bengals against the bias.
You're going to go with the Bengals
Yes.
against the Jaguars. Okay. All right. There you go. There you go. Next up, we have Patriots at Dolphins. I believe this is the biggest bias of the weekend of 30, which favors the Patriots.
I was about to say, is that 30?
Well, think about how bad the Dolphins got beat.
Jeez, and crackers.
Well, the Dolphins got beat pretty bad. Was it 25 points or something like that?
We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about
There
it.
you go, bias.
Oh my goodness.
Favors the Patriots.
Okay, Patriots get the bias and they travel to Miami. So last week the Patriots lost their home opener to the Las Vegas Raiders. They watched a 10-7 first half lead evaporate as the Raiders outscored them 13-3 in the second half. Drake May threw for 287 yards and a score, but he also threw an interception, and the run game was basically non-existent. Cannot win like that, Patriots. I know Mike Vrabel is very angry. Now, speaking of non-existent run games, the Dolphins got embarrassed by the Colts in Indianapolis, 33-8. On a day when Miami really needed Tua to shine, he personally turned the ball over 3 times, threw 2 interceptions, and he lost a fumble. They got destroyed in the time of possession, and although they only committed 3 penalties, one of them was running into the kicker, and one of them was 12 men on the field. Bonehead mistakes. Things are not looking good early for the Dolphins. They got a lot to fix, a whole lot.
I got to go back and check the brain trust for this special teams coordinator.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, you can't. Well, running into the kicker happens every once in a while, but 12 men on the field, that's inexcusable. I'm sorry. You just don't have too many men on the field. My flag team might have had too many men on the field one time a season, if ever. That's you just don't do that.
So that it?
Yeah, I said I'm taking the bias.
Going with the bias, going with the Patriots. Makes sense. All right, here we go. Uh-oh. Giants at Cowboys. Bias plus score of 7 favors the Cowboys, Benny.
Okay. Cowboys are at home. Giants got to travel. That might be a good thing for them. I don't know. Nah, they lost on the road last week too. Geez. I'm putting more thought into this than I really want to tell you the truth. Dallas's front seven kept the Eagles' Saquon Barkley under wraps for the most part last Thursday night. And the secondary was pretty stingy too. But controlling Jalen Hurts was a whole nother matter. Down 24-20 for almost the entire second half. The Cowboys missed several opportunities to draw within one or take the lead. Opportunity after opportunity. They were right there, couldn't get it done. A critical fumble by ex-Eagle Miles Sanders and some uncharacteristic drop passes by star wide receiver CeeDee Lamb ultimately is what did them in. They have nobody to blame but themselves. Now, my Giants got handled by the Commanders, as I talked about when I talked about the Commanders a little earlier. The score was 21-6. They couldn't get anything going on the ground, and Russell Wilson was a putrid 17 of 27 for a lousy, stinking 168 yards. Yeah, the offensive line looked bad, and Russ got hit 8 times, sacked twice, and hurried more times than I can remember. Ay caramba. I got to go with the Cowboys on this one.
I'm
They
sure.
got the bias, right? Yeah, Cowboys got the bias.
All right, going with the bias, going with them boys. Genie Christmas. Rams at Titans. Bias plus score of 9 favors the Rams.
Interesting. So the Titans had to travel to the Mile High City to take on the Denver Broncos. Number 1 overall pick, quarterback Cam Ward had a tough day in his NFL debut. The Titans defense did battle. They recorded 4 takeaways, 2 interceptions, and 2 fumble recoveries. But Cam Ward couldn't get the offense in gear. He didn't throw any picks, but he did lose a fumble, and he did get sacked 6 times. Tough sledding for Cam.
Wow.
He had to do better. Los Angeles Rams hosted the Houston Texans, and they came away with a hard-fought 14-9 win. Both defenses were pretty solid, but the difference in the game was the Rams defense recorded 2 takeaways, 1 interception and 1 fumble recovery, and they kept the Texans offense out of the end zone, while Matt Stafford threw a touchdown pass and Kyron Williams ran for 1. So the Rams offense got it done. The Texans offense did not get it done, despite the fact that their defense played well. This is a tough one to call. I want to go with the good Titans defense at home. Thinking about this way too long. I'm going to go with the bias and go with the Rams on the road.
I didn't see why you were even hesitating that long.
Really?
But you like the Rams. I know you like the Rams.
I do like the Rams, but well, I tell you what, I like them even more after that last game because their defense showed me a little something I didn't know they had. So I got to give them credit for that. I think that'll be enough. If the Titans got held out of the end zone last week, I'm sure the Rams defense can probably make it tough on them also. So yeah, that's why I'm going with the Rams, not just because I like them.
All right, good stuff. Going with the bias, going with the Rams. Seahawks at Steelers. Bias plus score of 10 favors the Steelers.
So it seems the rumors of Aaron Rodgers' demise have evidently been greatly exaggerated. The Pittsburgh Steelers' new quarterback rolled into MetLife Stadium to play the team that unceremoniously released him, and he balled out and talked dirty about him in the post-game interview. The Steelers were never able to get anything going on the ground, and Rodgers got sacked 4 times. But through it all, he put the offense on his 52-year-old back, threw 4 touchdowns, and had 0 picks. And he led the game-winning drive that ended with a 60-yard Chris Boswell field goal for a 34-32 win. Now, the Seahawks got to open the season against their division rival San Francisco 49ers, your San Francisco 49ers, at home with the 12-man behind. Didn't help much as the offense looked out of sync and was only able to generate 230 total yards. Sam Darnold looked shaky. He got no help from the supposedly vaunted ground attack. And I'm hearing talk of Kenny Walker losing his starting job to Zach Charbonnet, which doesn't really make much difference because they use them both anyway. They share carries. But the thing is, that O-line doesn't quite look quite right. I don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball or not. And if they can't run the ball, that's going to make it really tough on Darnold. Yeah. Steelers at home, riding on cloud nine. I'm going to go with the Steelers.
I said last week, I said that I expected that the Seahawks, I felt a little shaky about this game because I expected the Seahawks to have a strong run game.
Yeah.
And so, when you said that, I'm like, wow. And with Kittle injured and out, they throw a touchdown pass that looked like it was an interception. But we've got some tight ends now. They're like them big 6'6" guys, man. He just went up basically and snatched that ball for his
Well,
first
guess who we're
touchdown
getting
of
ready
his
to talk
career.
about next? You kind of jumping the gun on me here.
Okay, sorry about that. Just a little excited.
Who's next up?
We were talking about the Seahawks, though, weren't we?
You weren't just now.
Who is next up? All right, you're going with the bias, going with the Steelers. Yeah. Who's next up? Niners at Saints. Bias plus score of 11 favors my beloved 49ers.
Now, let's start with the Niners. They won on the road in Seattle. The defense only sacked Darnold once, but they only gave up one big pass to Smith and Jigba in the passing game. Pretty much kept Darnold under wraps. They stifled Seattle on the ground, only letting in one rushing touchdown. They had 7 tackles for loss and recovered 2 fumbles. I gotta say, Niners defense looked way better than I thought they would. But I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised because traditionally they're good like that. Of course, it was Seattle, so still remains to be seen. But they did play well. Great news for the Niners and for my main fantasy team. Christian McCaffrey is back. 22 carries, 69 yards. 9 catches for 73. That's a damn good work day for somebody who's always hurt. Bad news for the Niners. George Kittle will be out a few weeks with a hamstring. But at least for this game, third-string tight end Jake Tungus, I believe is how you pronounce his name, made 3 big receptions in Kittle's absence. The biggest one was a 4-yard touchdown with 1:34 left in regulation for the win. I believe that was the one that you were talking about that looked like an interception. I told somebody that called me and was asking me about that. No, somebody at the gym, we were talking. I said, looked like Purdy just closed his eyes and threw it up there. But the big man went up and got it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting from the game because we got 2 or 3 different tight ends who nobody really has heard much about. And one of them has some pretty good speed. I'm just finding out more about Tonga, so very interesting.
Well,
So
the way he worked himself in the position between 2 DBs and high pointed the ball is just like you teach it. I mean,
yeah.
it was textbook. It was textbook.
Awesome.
Now, where am I here? Oh, yeah, we got to talk about the Saints, right? Because they're going to be home playing the Niners next week. So Kellen Moore, fresh off of winning a Super Bowl as the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, is now the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. His starting quarterback, Spencer Rattler, is only in his second year, but he did play some games last year. Unfortunately, he is now 0-7 as a starter. But he gave his team a chance to win the game against the Cardinals. Alvin Kamara scored the Saints' only touchdown on a classic Kamara-style 18-yard run, slipping tackles, showing some power, showing some speed, showing some wiggle. He did that in the beginning of the second quarter. Let's see. They had 2 field goals and some, 2 field goals and some unexpectedly good play by the Saints defense kept them within striking distance. Speaking of the defense, they didn't actually stop anything Arizona was doing, and they didn't register any takeaways either. But they did slow them down just a bit. They had 7 tackles for loss, which is big, and they had 5 sacks on Kyler Murray, which is also big. But unfortunately, they couldn't put up the points when they needed to. In the end, Rattler took some shots at the end zone, threw some incompletions. His final one looked like it was a catch. It was to tight end Jawan Johnson, who had to go up and get it, just like Tongas did. But he got hit by Buda Baker, and he coughed it up as time ran out. I'm going to take the 49ers going with the bias as they go to the Superdome, and I believe they will beat the Saints.
All right, going with the bias, going with the Niners. All right, Benny. Panthers at Cardinals. Bias plus score is a tie. 0-0. No big differential between these two. So, Panthers at Cardinals. Who you got?
Let's see. We just got finished talking a little bit about Arizona. Kyler Murray did just enough to get the victory in the Superdome. He didn't get much help from his defense, and he took 5 sacks. But he threw for 2 touchdowns, rushed 7 times for 38 yards to help the running game, and clearly won the time of possession. So it was a tough game, but the better team won. The Panthers went to Jacksonville and they got handled by the Jaguars. Quarterback Bryce Young looked lost out there. He was able to throw 1 touchdown pass, but he also threw 2 interceptions and he lost a fumble. Sheesh, 3 turnovers. He was a putrid 18-35 for a lousy 154 yards. And in my estimation, the Jags defense wasn't as good as the Panthers offense was bad. I'm going with the Cardinals at home.
All right. Well, you can't go wrong either way, but Cardinals, I'm with you there. I understand. Next up, Broncos at Colts. Oh, I guess this is a larger bias plus score of 37.
Oh,
Favors the Colts. But
this
again,
one's going to be interesting.
yeah, tell me about it.
This one's going to be interesting. So, Colts are home. Let's talk about them first. The Indianapolis Colts treated their fans to a blowout of the Miami Dolphins, and Daniel Jones acquitted himself extremely well. The starting job that he took from Anthony Richardson is now clearly his to keep or to lose. He was 22 of 29, 272 yards passing. That's strong. 1 passing touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns. True dual threat quarterback now, which is exactly what Anthony Richardson was supposed to be. Good job by the GM bringing in Daniel Jones. Also, by the way, I'm sure he fits Shane Steichen's scheme to a T. Oh yeah, and with 4 field goals, he led 7 drives that all ended in scores, either touchdowns or field goals. They never punted the entire game. That's strong. Now, in my opinion, the Denver Broncos had the look of a team that took their opponent, the Tennessee Titans, kind of lightly. At least early on they did. But thanks to their strong defense, they got the job done in the end. They tortured Cam Ward and the Titans offense early and often, forcing 5 punts and a turnover after their short-lived 12-10 lead in the third quarter. They had 8 punts total. 5 of them were 3 and outs. They committed 2 turnovers, and both of them were fumbles. Can't beat anybody like that, punting and giving up the ball like that. So, obviously, I don't know. That kind of sounded like I was more talking about the Titans than the Broncos, but the Broncos did accomplish that. Love their defense. I believe the Broncos are going to go in Indianapolis and beat the Colts. So I'm going to go against the bias. Much stronger defense and a bounce back by Bo Nix, I hope. We'll see.
All right, then. Broncos at Colts. You're going with the Broncos.
Yes, sir.
All right, going against the bias. Chiefs at Eagles. Bias plus score 14 favors the Eagles, Benny.
Isn't that Eagles at Chiefs?
Is that Eagles at Chiefs?
I don't know. Double check that for me.
I will double check. But in the meantime, you go ahead.
So the Eagles got the bias, right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what we got here. It is Eagles at Chiefs. Thank you, dear. Jalen Hurts put the Philly offense on his back and was directly responsible for 214 of the team's 310 total yards from scrimmage and two of their three touchdowns, all of them on the ground. Both teams went score for score in the first half, with the Eagles holding on to a 21-20 lead. The field goal by Eagles kicker Jake Elliott was the only scoring in the second half, and the Eagles held on for the win. Now, the Chiefs came into their game with the Chargers in Brazil already missing wide receiver Rashee Rice, who's been suspended. And then 3 snaps into the game, their other starting wide receiver, Xavier Worthy, inadvertently ran into Jason Kelce and had to leave the game with a shoulder injury. Bad luck, Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes did his best to keep Kansas City in it, and they made it a dogfight, but they shot themselves in the foot a few times too many, and they fell to their division rivals. I got to go with the bias and go with the Eagles to go in here and handle a damaged Kansas City Chiefs team.
Yeah. Yeah. And Benny, we'll talk a little bit about the incident with the Eagles and the Cowboys when we will jump on our social media at the end of
We have to.
reports. Just for a moment, we don't actually have to, but
No, I'm
it's the
being
news. I understand.
facetious.
Being a bit facetious. So again, I had it backwards. The Eagles are going to visit the Chiefs. Either way, the Eagles are favored here. Falcons at Vikings. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
Bias plus score 6 favors the Vikings.
Ooh, this should be a good one.
Uh-huh.
So, in one of the more entertaining games of week 1, mainly because I have a Bucks fan here in my house, the Falcons came up short against division rival Tampa Bay. During the game, I was reminded that although the Bucks were the defending division champs, they were swept by the Falcons last season
Ah,
with Kirk Cousins at the helm.
oh my goodness.
Now it's Michael Penix's offense, and he did do his part in this game. He threw for almost 300 yards. He did throw a touchdown, and he ran for a score. Barely had to dive, hit the pylon, but he got in, and he didn't commit any turnovers. Good job by him. The Falcons had some help with some Bucks penalties and some challenges that they won, or I should say that went their way, along with winning the time of possession, and had a 20-17 lead with 2:17 left in regulation. But unfortunately, that was enough time for the Bucks to come back and score again with a minute left. Penix put together a valiant 8-play, 60-yard drive to win the game with 6 ticks left on the clock, but kicker Younghoe Koo missed a 44-yarder, and they went down in defeat. Now, the Vikings, who will be at home for this game, went into Chicago led by second-year quarterback J.J. McCarthy, who was making his first NFL start. He struggled through the first 3 quarters, but down 17-6 with 2:42 left in regulation, and after having been told at halftime by his head coach that he would lead them to victory, he led the Vikings on 3 consecutive scoring drives, all ending in touchdowns, and they won a big road game. Good job by the Vikings and J.J. McCarthy. This is a tough one. Vikings are at home. They do have the bias. Falcons got to work on their offensive line and get Bijan Robinson going. I don't know if they can do that this week. Vikings defense. I'm sure Brian Flores will have something ready for him. I'm going to go with the Vikings and the bias.
Going with the bias. And Benny.
Yes, sir.
Sunday night football. Falcons at Vikings. So we'll be able to get to see, the whole game, not just red zone, as they say. So that should be fun. All right. We have a doubleheader on Monday night, Benny.
Okay.
First of the doubleheaders Buccaneers at Texans. Bias plus score of 12 favors the Buccaneers.
All right, let's talk about the early game. What happened last week for the Bucks? Baker Mayfield did not throw for a ton of yards, but he did throw 3 touchdown passes. 2 of them went to rookie wideout and Mecca and I'm sorry, I've been saying his name correctly for weeks now, and then I just butchered it. Emeka Mbuka from Ohio State, for you, those of you out there who love Ohio State wide receivers. And Baker committed 0 turnovers. The offense also put together 101 total yards on the ground. The defense kept Atlanta's run game under wraps. That's another reason why I'm going against Atlanta in their game with the Vikings, because they weren't able to run the ball. I don't think they'll be able to run the ball against the Vikings either. However, we're talking about the Buccaneers right now. They kept Atlanta's run game under wraps, and that's not an easy thing to do. And they barely survived for the win only after a Falcons missed field goal. But I know they will be playing better than that next Monday night. The Texans, CJ Stroud was not terrible, but it was hard to muster the type of offensive production that they needed to pull out a win against the Rams. The Rams defense, like I said earlier, is much improved. Texans offensive line look a little bit shaky. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. Stroud was only sacked once, and the run game looks to have some potential, but they turned the ball over twice, and they couldn't find the end zone at all. If you can't score touchdowns, it's tough to win. I think the Bucs are going to go into Houston, and they will beat the Texans. Going with the bias.
All right. Yeah.
I tell them I can't hear them.
The late night game. Chargers at Raiders, Benny. West Coast. It's all about the West Coast. Bias plus score betting of 1 favors the Raiders.
Ooh,
congratulations to, it was like the oldest winning coach in NFL history or something like that. I don't think
Who, Pete Carroll?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's up
some
there.
kind of record for age and winning.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. He's got a national championship under his belt. He's got a Super Bowl ring. Good guy, good coach.
And I'll see if he can call it a comeback.
Wow. Let's see. Okay, the Chargers. So the Chargers snapped a 7-game losing streak to the Chiefs that stretched all the way back to 2021. So good for them. Congratulations, Jim Harbaugh. It was clear they entered the game with a lot more energy than the Chiefs did, as they forced a 3-and-out on the Chiefs' first possession and then marched 68 yards in 7 plays, with Justin Herbert throwing the first of 3 touchdown passes that opened up the scoring. Herbert played extremely well throughout, and the defense was solid enough to stifle Kansas City and hold on for the victory. Now, the Raiders had to open the season on the road in Foxborough with a new head coach who we just spoke of, Pete Carroll, a new offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, a new starting quarterback, Geno Smith, and a rookie first-round running back in Ashton Jeanty. That being said, Jeanty was average at best, but he did have a rushing touchdown. Got to give it to him. Geno threw 1 touchdown pass and 1 interception and was sacked 4 times, but he carved up the Patriots secondary for 362 yards. So Geno looks like he's off to a pretty good start. The defense did their part, keeping the Patriots' ground game under control, forcing Drake May to throw the ball 46 times, way more times than they want to throw it. And they also took an interception away from Drake May and recorded 4 sacks and 6 turnovers for loss. So a good job defensively also by the Raiders. This one is a tough call. I really am leaning toward the Raiders, but I'm going to go with the Chargers. I'm going to go against the bias.
Going to go against the buyers? There's only
yes,
one.
Sir.
So,
yes.
Not a big difference. Not a big difference.
And by the way, before we go on, I forgot to mention, I know the biases were a little off because we were using the Madden bias instead of the normal bias, but I had 9 wins and 7 losses last week. So I broke 500.
Okay. All right. I think the Madden bias was about 63%, somewhere in the 60s.
Okay.
Not too bad. Didn't do too bad, you know. All right, Benny. So that wraps up the Bias Plus reports for week 2. Let's just take a moment, talk about the big incidents. I know there's been a lot of back and forth as far as who's, what's what, and who's to blame, and I think it's interesting that especially Eagles fans seem to be really wanting to blame Dak Prescott somehow for
which
what.
I believe is ludicrous.
Let me tell you something. This is the thing that I want to say about that. Hold on one second. All right, because I want to bring this up from our page. There you go. So I want to read a quick quote from one of the pundits on television who said this. He said, "It's a level of stupidity that can't even be fathomed." That was RC on ESPN. The interesting thing to me, and the thing that I've heard really nobody talk about, is why dude is 3 yards over the line of scrimmage past the ball, where his defense is all lined up on the ball. What is he doing in their huddle?
Thank you.
As far as I'm concerned, that's another day that another game he should have been suspended for, because that was purposeful. Who do you think you are? You're just going to cross, the line and just go get in their huddle? So again, it's a level of stupidity that can't even be fathomed, according to RC. I'll give you the last word on that before we sign off on Ben and Barry on football.
Yeah, I think it's pretty bad that Eagle fans are so. I don't understand. How can you excuse this? They were actually trying to say that it was okay because Dak spit first. What? Are you kidding me? Everybody that said something to me about this or brought it up to me, or maybe I mentioned it and we talked about it when I was at the gym the next day, and I was at 2 different gyms, and I talked to several people in both, male and female. Any of them that said, well, I said to them, if you and me are arguing and I spit on you, what are you going to do? And every single person, women and men, gave me some version of, I'm going to kick your ass, punch you in the face, smack you upside your head, or something along those lines. Not one of them said, I'm going to spit back on you. Not one. I rest my case.
I'm just going to mention the fact that, I haven't heard anybody mention that he's way over the line of scrimmage, way past where he should.
I did on Facebook, but they glossed right over that.
Yeah, they just,
like it was okay.
Yeah.
Here's a crazy thing. He crosses the ball and starts walking toward the huddle, and then kind of backs up. He was talking trash to one of the offensive linemen, a rookie guy, the guard.
Oh.
Dak steps up, but he's still behind his 2 linemen, kind of like, you talk about my guys like that, you know what I mean? And he just spit. Now, when they show the overhead view, not only did he spit on the ground, but he didn't spit even toward him. When he backed up on an angle. Dak spit straight, and it went right down in between the 2 linemen.
Right.
And then, looking for trouble, Carter walks back toward the huddle and says, "Oh, you trying to spit on me?" You're looking for trouble. You trying to start something. Meanwhile, the referee is giving him grace, probably because it was an injury timeout, and was walking up behind him, probably to say, yo, man, you can't come on this side of the ball. Get back over there where you belong. And that's when he spit. And he's standing right there.
Yeah.
So, he was wrong as 3 left shoes, bro.
It's a level of stupidity that can't even be fathomed. So, all right, Benny, that wraps up Ben and Barry on football for week 2. Any last comments?
Just again, let me just repeat myself. I was very impressed with Justin Fields' game, even though the Jets lost. The market improvement in his game, especially his passing game, and I hope he can keep it up. I'm going to attribute it to Aaron Glenn and the patience that he's shown with Justin Fields. The fact that they had no hesitation in bringing him in and anointing him as their starter right off the bat. That's big for a brand new head coach to do something like that with a guy that's had limited success early on in his career and say, you know what? I think you can do it. I believe you can do it. You're our guy. And hopefully Justin can pay him back for that. First game, it seems like he's on his way to doing that. On the other side of the coin, Caleb Williams. I talked about how he looked in the preseason. It wasn't great. People talk about Ben Johnson and what an offensive genius he is. I've heard talk that his system is complicated, but I've heard Caleb Williams say it's not so much that it's complicated to learn, it's complicated for the defense that has to face it. Okay. But even though he started off the game with a lot of energy and they did score early, I noticed over the course of the game that he was throwing to checkdowns a lot. He checked the ball down a lot. He never tried to force the ball. I shouldn't use the word force. Tried to push the ball downfield. And I know Ben Johnson is the kind of guy that likes to go intermediate and deep fairly often. Yet I never saw it. Okay, so I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen or how long it's going to take Caleb Williams to get it together. But Ben Johnson's going to have to show patience with him also. That's it.
J.J. McCarthy showed some grit coming out and struggling in the first half and then getting it together, and leading his team, like a true quarterback. So it'll be interesting to watch the travelings of these two
Luckily, they weren't getting blown out. They could have been getting blown out and then it would have been bad for them. But they were kind of within striking distance. But you have to commend him. 3 consecutive drives, 3 consecutive touchdowns. Bang, bang, bang. I got to give him credit for that.
Got to give him credit.
In his first NFL start.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that's it for me.
I'm done.
Everybody have a nice night.